Professional wrestling is the one true sport. Other sports have their share of intense, dramatic moments, but nothing can compare with professional wrestling. Welcome to Wrestling History X, where three friends come together to talk about the stories behind the matches. I'm Matt.
I'm a 12-year-old boy. My name is Eric Bischoff.
And I am not buff, but I brought some stuff.
Welcome to episode 238, nWo Sold Out 1997.
Finally!
A pay-per-view!
Worth watching?
The world ain't big enough for the both of us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, they could have done one of these two taglines. That's pretty decent. World ain't big enough for the both of us. Makes sense in the context of the nWo WCW.
I would have just taken finally.
And it took them, another 4 years before they went out of...
we've been doing pay-per-views for 14 years with WCW, and they're just now finally giving us a pay-per-view worth watching. They're kind of putting themselves down.
Yeah.
Think about
Hey,
it.
we had a rave review of Starrcade 96. I'd say that was worth watching.
And technically, this is nWo, not WCW.
Okay.
Yeah, because they're not the same thing.
So this would be the inaugural Sold Out produced by WCW. It took place on January 25th, 1997, from the Five Seasons Center in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, with an attendance of 5,120 people.
Sounds about right.
Can I ask a question? Was there a motorcycle event happening in Iowa? Why were they in Iowa?
Eric, basically, everything about the show, as we go forward, and we'll talk about a lot of it, they wanted this show to basically be counterculture to, the norm, and because that's what nWo is, or at least that's what they're going for. So they basically went to someplace that is out of the norm of where they would go in Cedar Rapids, Iowa.
Yeah, just off the beaten path.
Usually if you're going to go to Iowa, you're going to go to Des Moines, not Cedar Rapids.
Yeah.
Or, surprised they didn't just go to Wyoming or something like that, because Eric Bischoff loves Wyoming.
Yeah. I guess it's one of those things where it's if we're selling this many nWo shirts, we can go anywhere, right?
I guess so.
Possibility.
From what I remember watching the show, it seemed like that the arena was pretty full, but it's just not a very big spot. Well, maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
That's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
But we are in Iowa.
Yeah, we are.
So, Shane, did you do what you do?
Well, possibly. I haven't decided yet, but yes, we are in Iowa. We're in Cedar Rapids. I coincidentally grew up next to Iowa in Nebraska, but my niece happened to grow up in Iowa. If you ask her, she's from Nebraska, but she went to school in Iowa. So, Erica, if you're listening there, I corrected it. So, yeah, we're in Iowa, and I did what I do, where as far as I looked up, what the hell is Iowa known for? Corn, yeah, but I'm from the Cornhusker State, so if anybody's going to represent corn, it's going to be Nebraska. So, sorry, Iowa, but, we'll get you with popcorn or something like that. I looked at the list, and obviously we'd been to Iowa before, where I brought some loose meat sandwiches. Couldn't bring those again. Thought about bringing those again, but I figured we need something different. I hit up Erica and asked her, what did you have when you were in school in Iowa?
Some staples.
Yeah. What do you miss? What did you love? What should I have? And she told me a couple of things, some stuff that I had before that I just didn't know that was a name for it. One thing that popped out on the list that I had to ask her about, which she ended up saying that, yeah, they have this all the time at family events and holidays and whatnot. It is a Snickers salad. Yes, Snickers, like the candy bar. It's I guess a Midwestern or Iowan take or spin on an ambrosia salad in a way. It is a little bit of instant vanilla pudding. It's The pudding has Cool Whip folded in to it, and then you add some chopped up Granny Smith apples, some chopped up Snickers bars, mix it all together. I decided that we were gonna go fancy with this because it is the first ever NWO pay-per-view, so we gotta be a little bit classy.
Try to make this thing look cute.
Yeah, something about this show has to be cute. Yeah, we've got the Snickers salad. I put it in martini glasses. Put a little bit of a caramel swirl inside of the glass, and then drizzle a little caramel sauce on top of the salad as well, and put some just fresh slices or not slices, but chunks of apple and Snickers on top. It tastes like a carameled apple. I didn't know what the hell to expect from it.
I'm willing to bet this is the most dressed up and only time anybody's served a Snickers salad in a martini glass.
Possibly.
Because this is like 4th of July, like trash food.
Yes. But, here it is. The
Not that it tastes bad, but it is a trashy thing to make.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's one of those simple, easy... It wasn't as cheap as I thought it was going to be because... Well, I take that back. I bought other stuff with it. So, I mean, it was 6 apples, a bag of Snickers candy bars, Cool Whip, and pudding with a little bit of milk. So I guess all in all, it was like less than $15 for it. But yeah, it's good. It's sweet. It's not too sweet.
That's true.
Sorry, I had to throw the NWO reference in there.
Matt, have you ever heard of this or had this before?
I had never heard of this before.
I was telling Shane as he was preparing it that I saw the ingredients and I was like, Snicker bar salad? I haven't had this since I was probably in like 3rd grade maybe, at a pool party in my backyard. It was like the end of the baseball season, so they get all the kids around and give them their participation trophies and feed them pizza and stuff or whatever. But one of the mothers of one of the kids brought this thing called Snicker bar salad, and me as a chubby child who was not very good at baseball thought that this was like the greatest thing ever.
And see, this may have helped me not being great at baseball because I mean I sucked at baseball, but I loved apples, I loved Snickers, Cool Whip, pudding, caramel, but I was also one of those picky kids where food can't touch, everything sounds weird when it's mixed together, because that's what when I hit up my niece, her response back to me, from her and my nephew, her husband, was, "You've never had that before?" I'm like, well, yeah, I was picky, but
I had it in
I got it now.
Sacramento, so maybe that lady was from the Midwest, but
I was today years old when I realized that it's all good mixed together.
It is. I think that it blew my mind that you could cut up a Snickers bar and put it in stuff. As a child, I was like, "What? Snickers and Cool Whip?"
Oh yeah,
Crazy.
I mean, Snickers Blizzards were always my shit from Dairy Queen. So
there's not many outside of stepping on it. Like a Snickers bar is always. It says it's always good.
Oh yeah,
so,
the place I worked at in high school, we would cut up our own Snickers there to put in our shakes, and we'd put it through like the meat slicer basically, and just like shave it so it would come out all crumbly and stuff.
Getting innovative.
That's right. But I'm gonna do what I do as far as take a bite on air, because you love to hear me eat. So I mean, that's partially why you tune in, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
For this moment right here.
Moment like this, some people wait a lifetime. Here we go. Sorry, Kelly Clarkson, didn't mean to steal your lyrics.
Ugh. Truly foul.
Mm-hmm.
Well, something that would happen right around the same time as Sold Out, Emerald Live would debut on the Food Network.
Bam!
Later in the week.
I was gonna say bang. It's bam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bam.
So crazy because I'm always like, what? That his catchphrase, which is just yelling "bam," was a thing that everybody did and was known, but it's not a good catchphrase.
I mean,
It's not even it's not.
I mean,
if you could see me right now, it's the Salt Bay of the '90s where.
But he could have, I don't know, bam. It's just like bam. It's like
That's what he does.
I
He's
guess.
throwing the spices in.
know,
Bam!
take it up a notch.
yeah.
There's a method to his madness.
There is. Whatever happened to everyone? He was kind of the first celebrity chef, and now everyone's just making money off of his back.
Let's see here.
Not the first celebrity chef, but as far as people love food television shows and stuff, he's kind of, there's not Paula Deen, who's the lady that did the French cooking?
Julia Child. There we go.
Yeah, there's Julia Childs. There's like Paul Prudhomme and probably some other people.
Hosting a series on Roku right now.
Okay.
I'll stay paid, Emerald. There was, what is it? I think there was an Asian guy that had one on like PBS back in the day too. But either way, like Emerald was the first like truly household name one as far as I remember as a kid.
East meets West with Ming Tsai, or
yeah, maybe.
Yeah, because he showed up years later, it threw me because I remember Ming Tsai and Bobby Flay coming up together, and then 20 years later, Ming Tsai is auditioning or cast in the next Food Network star or something like that. Like, how can you
be the next one?
Why do you have to be the next star? You're Ming Tsai. People should know who the fuck you are.
He should be one of the judges.
You mean like Bobby Flay was?
Yeah.
Oh, really? Dang, what an insult to Ming. But yeah, I feel like Emerald was the one that like made the Food Network pop.
I mean, yeah, it definitely was the first cooking show that had a little bit of flair. I mean,
spice.
That's why they totally played like the bang and the kick it up a notch. Like it was just something he said, but then like it caught on, and so they were like, okay, you need to make sure you're saying these things.
Yeah,
and it was at that point completely over the top.
Yep. And then everybody had to come up with their catchphrase, and yeah.
I mean, do you all have any favorite celebrity chefs that you enjoy?
I don't really watch a lot of cooking shows. I like the show that the Asian guy that owns restaurants in New York did.
David Chang?
Yeah, what was that show? He was on a lot of it, and then it like kind of moved through.
On Netflix?
Yeah. But it was pretty good. I remember watching that. It was like one of the last things like that I watched.
The name of it is.
But it was
I watch it
yeah,
too. Yeah,
it was
great.
good, but it wasn't like just him. It was like him for like kind of to like set the series up, and then they kind of went around to different people, and that one was
just
fun.
been called Chefs.
Maybe, but I remember watching that. But celebrity chefs isn't really. I think I watched a lot of like the Bourdain shows, like No Reservations and whatnot. But I haven't read any of his books or anything. And those shows were kind of travel shows. They were about food and stuff, but it wasn't.
Yeah, a lot of it was just him walking around talking.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, you could have zero interest in food and still find those shows interesting.
See, like him, I liked. What was that dude's name? Andrew
Breakfast,
Zimmer.
Lunch, and Dinner. David Chang.
Yeah, I don't remember that being the name of it, but it could have been. But I remember liking a show that he did, or that one of the shows that he was.
Seth Rogen, Chrissy Teigen on it.
No,
not that one.
No, this was kind of more of a serious documentary type of thing.
Ugly Delicious.
Maybe it was that. That sounds more right. But it was one of David Chang's things.
Yeah, it's him basically traveling around doing things with stuff. Yeah, that's what it is.
Okay.
Celebrity chefs. I mean, I worked for Wolfgang Puck. He was awesome. I've always wanted to meet and, one day say I worked for Gordon Ramsay just to see, because they're portrayed as polar opposites, where Gordon is this big hothead that yells for a reaction, and Wolfgang Puck is all soft-spoken and super friendly. And I mean, I know Gordon is outside of the TV cameras.
Yeah, I mean, he's definitely like playing into a character.
I've been a huge Top Chef fan forever, so a lot of the ones that have come up from there. Stephanie Izard, I think she's still my favorite.
Richard Blaze.
See, I like Richard.
Richard Blaze is my favorite.
I don't know who What was Iron Chef? I remember that was a big show, right?
And then, of course, Alton.
Oh, yeah.
Can't go wrong with some Alton.
I forgot about him. I love
though he says he's not a chef, so.
Whatever. He's like, what if Bill Nye wasn't boring?
I mean,
what if Bill Nye was fun?
It didn't make it to TV, but I shared camera time with Tyler Florence at my restaurant when they came through for the Great Food Truck Race years back.
Is Guy Fieri a chef or just a personality?
Yeah, personality.
But I mean, he would be on the celebrity chef list.
I never watched much of it.
He'd be a judge.
At this point, most celebrity chefs are just personalities. If you turn on Food Network at this point, there are zero cooking shows really. It's all competition shows.
Competition and travel type of shows, or like basically spotlight shows.
Yep.
If you ever meet us out in the wild and you really want to know one of the best stories ever about Bobby Flay, ask me about it.
Oh, okay.
But I cannot put it on.
Oh, I don't even know. I don't think I know this story. If I do, I forgot. You can tell me later. But yeah, I mean, good. I'm glad Emerald's still getting paid. I feel like he probably has not made near as much money as the people that came after him. He's a trailblazer.
Exactly. He's. I don't know who to put him in as far as wrestling terms would be.
Is he
the
Dustin
Mr.
Rhodes?
Wonderful?
Is he
Is he
Dustin
Savage?
Rhodes? Oh.
Is he Savage?
Yeah, it could be Savage. Mr. Wonderful, another one, because it's like, oh, they were yelling Paula in Madison Square Garden like before Hogan became like, worldwide famous, and people were still doing it, but Paul Orndorff never became a household name. But yeah, maybe the Savage never quite got the flowers. Still probably made really good money for the time. And maybe, cable was watched a lot more back then too. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
he definitely had more eyes on him than a lot of these guys now.
Yep, because there was less
Harder
shows to
to
spread
get
around.
shows made because
You had
now
old
people
Yan
can
Can cook.
I'm sure there's cooking shows on Netflix that do more numbers
That
than
one
the
Cajun-
shows on cable.
That Cajun old man that was on, I think he was on PBS too.
Oh, was that Paul Prudhomme?
I don't know. Y'all talk about that.
I know he's
I'm
Cajun.
gonna make up that stuff right there. Back.
That sounds like the kind of guy that would watch.
Well, let's find out if this is the kind of show that we want to watch.
Peel the Band-Aid.
Loser.
Black and white footage of the NWO riding on garbage trucks to the arena.
So fitting.
Some money. All that money. They got some garbage trucks.
The police escorts them through snowy streets as Eric Bischoff speaks about changing the world as everyone knows it. And Hollywood Hogan then joins them at the arena, having arrived in a limo because he's too good for the garbage trucks. And he says he has backup. The Dallas Cowboys will be with him tonight.
In some of that black and white stuff, I could have sworn I saw Sting in there.
It was NWO
It was
Sting.
NWO Sting.
Okay. I was like, what the fuck is going on here?
Yeah, because my first initial thought when they started showing all the people was, we're really at that point where they have this many members?
Yeah,
now?
I was like, I also had that same thought. I was like, how many of these motherfuckers are there already? Jesus.
And then that's when I heard them talk about Dallas Cowboys. And I'm like, okay, that makes sense now.
I don't think the Dallas Cowboys were on the garbage trucks. It
No.
literally was just the NWO members minus Hogan. on
Yeah,
those
but it was
trucks.
just like still a lot of guys.
Yes. Actually, I don't think Chono was on the garbage trucks.
No.
either.
You had
Good
you
for
had
him.
Syxx, not really on a garbage truck, but running or walking behind them,
He's
but
ghost
keeping
walking.
up with speed.
He's ghost walking.
He's ghost walking the whip.
He's got his camera in hand.
And everyone, once they hit the arena, they gather together and just start shouting random things at a camera. Literally all of them were talking at the same time. Couldn't decide what any of them were saying. We then get this sold out logo before a video of Eric holding a press conference filled with quick cuts between his speech and sound bites from the NWO.
Loser.
It's very kind of gave me almost Max Headroom vibes,
Yeah.
which it's not that cool, but
Nah. Max Headroom was great.
Bischoff says, "We are in control," followed by thanking those who rose to the challenge to join their ranks, before addressing those who offered themselves as opponents tonight, saying, "What the hell were you thinking?" We then go live to the arena, and Eric stands at a podium on a stage, introducing Hogan, Hall, and Nash, who appear on 3 big screens behind him, where they introduce the commentary team of Eric and Ted DiBiase.
and Liz is just kind of standing there.
Sounds good. I like me some DiBiase, but
We do like Ted DiBiase.
Eric's made his way down some steps to the commentary area. It's not a table. It's literally they're just sitting on some speakers.
Yeah, they're sitting on like roadie touring gear. You know, it's like sitting on the PA or like the amp case or whatever.
And he forces Miss Elizabeth to take his winter coat off before placing his leather jacket onto him. And then that's the last we see of Miss Elizabeth for the entire evening.
Yep.
Thanks for showing up.
yeah.
Thanks for coming,
I wonder
Liz.
how much she got paid for that.
Right. And DiBiase can't get his headset on, while Bischoff also has to remind him where the hard cam is. 'Cause he's like literally turned and like
Yeah.
back to the camera and talking to Eric. It's like, dude, camera over there.
Yeah, it's not behind you.
But he doesn't subtly do it. He literally goes, and the camera's over there.
Yeah.
Mr. DiBiase, everything that you've learned over the last 10 years in wrestling, we're going to need you to forget.
I mean, everything about the show is about as subtle as a fucking baseball bat.
There you go. That's a better analogy right there.
So,
At this point, I kind of want to talk about the set.
Okay.
it's interesting.
'Cause
It's a new
It
look.
is different than anything we have seen. Mm-hmm. So, like we said, there's like a stage area that's up top with some screens.
Yeah, it's kind of like a big, big staircase, moderately steep.
Yeah. Then you stairs leading down to another stage where, like, the announcers are on one side. There's a band on the other side, and it's surrounded with like biker chicks, basically.
Yeah, there's like a bunch of motorcycles, and then just girls sitting on motorcycles.
And then that leads to a ramp down to the ring, and the ring has an nWo mat.
I wonder if this was their original like view for the Sturgis thing that they did, where everything was just like a dirt hole and dirt tracks, and this was the vision that they had there, and they started from the dirt area, and now they've risen to the full. I don't know, I'm trying to make
It does have a bit of a like kind of almost like a LA like hair metal vibe as far as like the look goes. It's like kind of grungy. Everything's like dark. Yeah, it feels like Motorhead should be the band that's playing over there.
Like if LA was in Japan, that's how I would envision it.
Yeah, it was it's an interesting stage setup, and I don't think that it looks bad. Sometimes less is more, and they don't do anything like too extravagant. It's not like the SmackDown fist or anything like that. It's a little bit more than it's like not necessarily more or less. It's just different. Yeah, but not in necessarily a bad way. I liked the look of the show. Kind of reminded me of a few years ago. They did the WWF did the women's Evolution show, and everyone was like, "Oh, they didn't put up a bunch of stuff for the women's show." And it's like, I get it, but I think the show looks nice. It looks like a wrestling show. Mm-hmm. I thought that look of that show, did not deter me from watching it by any means. Matter of fact, I think it added to some of the enjoyment. I don't need LED screens on my ring aprons or posts or whatever.
Yeah.
So I think the arena looks nice for what they're trying to do.
I agree with that.
Running Man. That's what it reminded me of.
Oh, okay. That's
like
cool.
Something from the set of that.
Longer and less good than the movie Running Man.
Oh, yeah, Running Man, the movie. Well, I heard they remade that, right? Or did they not? They remade Total Recall. That's what it was.
Yeah.
Thank God they didn't remake Running Man.
I mean,
Yet.
yeah, it's coming.
Dear
Jason
Jesse.
Momoa in Running Man.
Jesse Ventura, if you're listening, stop them.
As I mentioned, there's a band, but if you watch on the network, you're never really going to hear them because of music rights, obviously. Shane tells us that on his version that because he doesn't have the internet,
Yes.
so he gets to watch the VHS versions. That
It was
it actually does show the band playing.
Yeah. Like you hear them play. I heard them play one song. I don't know if they played any actual ring entrances for anybody, but I just remember them at one point. There was a New World Order song that they were doing, and it was just them in a grungy.
Okay, so
manner.
it wasn't
New
like
World Order.
It wasn't like the
New
like,
World Order.
that
New World
Hendrix,
Order.
like Deep Purple type ripoff song that they normally play, but yeah, something a little more of the time.
Yeah. It was not great,
Yeah,
but I mean, maybe you had to be there.
in my head it's just like discount Alice in Chains riffs.
Yeah.
We then go to our first match: Chris Jericho versus Masahiro Chono. And the voice of the nWo, Neil Pruitt, is
Loser.
our ring announcer. And he mocks the WCW guys as they come to the ring, while they also don't get any music.
Which really just kind of scoops the balls out of the show immediately.
Yep.
Like Chris Jericho, let people cheer who they're gonna cheer. They're the faces. I understand the sentiment behind it, but Chris Jericho, Masahiro Chono, on paper, sounds great, right?
Nick Patrick is going to be our ref for every match tonight.
Somebody got paid.
And he no longer hides his affiliation with the NWO, as he's literally wearing a shirt while he's refereeing these matches.
Yeah.
And we didn't mention it at Wrestling World 97 a couple weeks ago that Masahiro had actually joined the NWO in the middle of December, basically becoming the leader of NWO Japan.
First international member.
A sister stable in New Japan.
Masahiro Chono.
So our two competitors lock up with Chono accusing Chris of hair pulling, which, of course, the ref believes him.
Totally. Pulled that rat tail right out of his head.
Before Masahiro tosses Jericho out to the floor, as we see several WCW representatives, such as Harlem Heat, the Nasty Boys, the Horsemen, and Randy Anderson, all make their way to some seats in the crowd. They bought their tickets. Can't kick them out.
I know, so you're like, okay, well, I guess they won't be wrestling tonight.
Back in the ring, Chono challenges Chris to a test of strength, until Masahiro cheats to gain control with kicks, side Russian leg sweeps, and a flying shoulder tackle. Chono tries for a suplex, but Jericho counters it into one of his own, followed by a wheel kick to send Masahiro outside, before leaping out on him with a springboard crossbody. Now Chris kicks Chono into a ring post.
Posted.
Before charging at him, only for Masahiro to move, causing Jericho to collide knee first with the steel. And Chono pounces on the injury with chop blocks, dragon screw leg whip, and attempts to lock on an STF.
And Jericho's selling the knee, so the fans obviously are starting a USA chant.
For
Chris
Jericho from Canada.
It's like, not everybody loves the NWO. It's just a good-looking shirt.
Jericho fires up with chops, a leaping back elbow, and a German suplex, which gets a slow 2 count, which is another story of the night.
Yep.
So Chris nails a clothesline for another slow 2 count. And Jericho starts to argue with Patrick, which allows Masahiro to recover to deliver a reverse DDT. Seen through the eyes of a weird camera. Feels a lot like the referee camera from a while back, but it's basically a GoPro on like a selfie stick that they're holding over the ring.
I will say that it's maybe the most successful attempt at counterculture that they pull off on this show, because they're interesting angles that you've never seen. It's not as high a quality, and it gives it kind of that gritty feeling or whatever. Yep. But I think that it is pretty successful compared to the things that I don't think are successful.
Chono heads up top, but he botches a flying shoulder tackle, but makes up for it by setting up a table on the floor and trying to suplex Chris out of the ring through it, only for Jericho to reverse to bring Masahiro in the hard way. Chris follows up with a missile dropkick, but his knee causes him to not cover immediately, leading to a 2 count. Jericho with a snap suplex and a lion salt, but again his knee hits the mat, causing pain, so only a near fall. Now Chris heads up top, but Chono meets him there to shove him off through the table, before rolling him back into the ring to nail a Yakuza kick for the pin and the win.
NWO 1, WCW 0.
Yep. America nothing. Oh, sorry. Loser.
Oh, yeah.
It's a perfect spot for it.
They need to hire me to be the guy that just says, posted.
Bischoff and DiBiase then talk about the Miss NWO competition.
Oh, yeah.
And Eric shows us pictures of some of the women in the competition as fans are chanting boring.
I'm right there with you, fans.
But it's like ladies that sent a letter and a photo of themselves, and it feels like a Dateline clip of murdered women or something. It's so fucking creepy for some reason. And it really skeeved me out.
They the names didn't always match with what he was saying as they were saying the name. Well, this is later on, I guess. We'll get to that.
Yeah, but yeah.
Yep.
He then admits the women they chose had to be able to pay for their own accommodations and travel, which wasn't completely true, as Bischoff literally sent his crew out to find women who, one, owned their own motorcycle and lived in the area. So, yes, they were paying for their own accommodations. It's called their house.
Yeah, it's like, they drove...
gas from home to the arena.
None of them probably live more than 45 minutes away.
It's fucking Cedar Rapids.
It's also funny, too, because he's like, yeah, we didn't pay for these women to come to the show to be on pay-per-view. But, like, in the first match... He talks about how they like pulled out all the stops and blah blah blah. But he's like, but it's not our money. We're spending Ted's money or whatever. And he's like, he's trying to be too damn cool.
Mm-hmm.
Eric then sends it to Jeff Katz, and I got some fun information about Mr. Katz here.
Okay.
I actually found him to be quite interesting.
Let's hear it. I mean, he looks, for reference, if you don't watch it, he looks like the baby brother of like James Corden.
How old do you think he was?
He was 28 is my guess.
He was like 19.
Oh, well, he's a large man. They age differently.
So,
Iowa.
Basically, as a teenager, he was a host of a sports talk show on a Michigan radio station in which he would interview different personalities that also included wrestlers, such as Hogan and Flair.
Okay.
Which would lead him to meeting people in the business and leading to this opportunity in WCW.
And he was doing this like when he was 17?
He didn't leave the job until he was like 21.
Oh, okay.
Basically, he became NWO's version of Mean Gene, and he would do the NWO hotline, while Mean Gene was doing the WCW hotline.
Okay.
Ah.
Yeah.
It's a good gig if you can get it.
Mm-hmm.
But he would leave WCW and become a studio executive and film producer for films such as Snakes on a Plane, Freddy vs. Jason,
Okay.
Deadpool.
Oh, wow.
He actually is the one who championed the idea of Ryan Reynolds as the main character of that one.
I mean, he definitely cleaned up on that. I mean, Snakes on a Plane, I believe, was more successful than people expected, but Deadpool was a certified fucking blockbuster.
Yeah.
He would also begin writing comics as well, with the biggest title was Booster Gold, where he was the co-writer with Jeff Johns.
Okay, I know Booster Gold.
Before he then returned to the world of wrestling, where he would use Kickstarter to raise funds for the Wrestling Retribution Project. And the show is on YouTube, and it contains talent such as Kenny Omega, LA Knight, Amazing Red, and many other indie favorites
That are now
from 10 years ago that are a lot of them are now in AEW and WWF
That's neat.
or WWE.
Yeah, so yeah, he's done a lot. Obviously, he made some good money in film in order to try to produce his own wrestling show.
But back in the arena, Jeff would interview a woman without introducing her and asking her what the term NWO going all the way means to her. And she mumbles an answer that subtitle says was Malaysia. But I felt like I heard fellatio.
She did say that. I heard her.
Okay. I'm just making sure that...
She's like, I guess I won't have sex with them, but I might blow one of them.
Katz then moves on to number 2, who has a mullet, asking what she would do to tame Big Kevin Nash. And she responds with, anything it takes. So Jeff asks for details, but she remains silent, so Katz just calls her a minx and sends it back to the action.
And this is like pure like cringe humor stuff where it's just uncomfortable. They didn't give these ladies any like good ideas for things to say or like prep them for the questions at all, and it's so obvious and awkward.
And see, this is why growing up in Nebraska, it always bugged the hell out of me. Anytime you saw somebody from the Midwest on TV, whether it be a wrestling show, the Tonight Show, something like that, it's like they purposely go out of the way to find the most ridiculous people possible just so that they can embarrass them on TV to make themselves look better. And
this didn't work in either direction.
No.
It's made all of them look like idiots. I will say that Jeff Katz does a good job of keeping it moving, but
That's about all.
was-
keeping it moving. Not that
exactly
he's doing a great job here or anything, but he's like, okay, like he's good at moving past it. He doesn't clam up. He's comes from radio, guys. Just learned that.
We then go to our second match. Hugh Morrus with Jimmy Hart versus Big Bubba Rogers in a Mexican death match.
Yeah, neither of these guys are Mexican. I don't think Hugh Morrus is. But I do love that they do like the dumb voiceover thing, but it's like, Big Bubba, it's like, we'll flatten you like a tortilla. It's like the big voiceover over the PA. It's like, these aren't even well-written jokes.
Nope.
So this was originally supposed to be Conan.
Okay, that
who
makes
the
more
dungeon
sense.
tasked to getting revenge on Bubba for his betrayal and leaving the Dungeon of Doom. Conan ended up having some travel issues after working a show in Mexico, so the Laughing Man is a last-minute replacement.
All right.
And the rules of this match are basically last man standing. You win when your opponent can't answer a 10 count.
Yeah. At this point already, the show has the energy of a wake.
Yep, I mean, we're only on our second match, and we've already heard a boring chant from the crowd, so
Yeah.
we're off and running.
Yeah.
We're not even 30 minutes into this show.
No. Eric's already, and Eric immediately just starts shitting on the Macho Man. Nobody wants to hear that.
Well, Macho Man had come out on Nitro the previous week saying that WCW nor the nWo needed his services and that Savage just needs to get a life.
Yeah.
So basically, yeah, he's just shitting on him completely.
Yeah. Hopefully
Was this at the time that there was talk of Savage going back to WWF, so he was off the air?
No, he was back on the air at this point.
Okay.
And he started hanging out with Sting up in the rafters for a little bit.
Oh, okay.
Oh, I forgot about that. Okay.
Because he's a free agent.
Neither one of them's talking.
So our two competitors start the match off with some shoving and clotheslines, which sends Rogers out of the ring to regroup, only for Hugh to follow out as well to ram Bubba into the ring steps.
Loser.
Back in the ring, Rogers hits the funny bone multiple times before attempting to handcuff Morrus to the ropes, but the Laughing Man is able to escape and clothesline Bubba out of the ring once more. Jimmy Hart gets a few kicks in before Rogers returns to the ring, where Hugh sends Bubba to the corner where his jacket is hung. And Rogers reaches in, grabbing a chain to nail Morrus in the face when he charges in. And when Patrick sees it, he just asks if the Laughing Man brought it into the ring, so the ref allows it.
I mean, it's a Mexican death match.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it should be anything goes. It's a death match.
Bubba uses the chain to whip Hugh several times, but Morrus finally avoids one and kicks the chain away, allowing him to pick it up and deliver a chain-filled fist, knocking Rogers down. Hughes goes up top to nail No Laughing Matter.
Which is a nice-looking moonsault that I didn't expect out of him.
Before the ref just starts making a very slow count, pretending like, oh, Jimmy, what are you doing, Jimmy? Like, 1, Jimmy, quit, do it, 2. So he keeps having to just basically restart his count, which allows Bubba to recover and attack from behind. The Laughing Man reverses a whip to hit a corner splash and a clothesline, laying Rogers out again, with Patrick again being slow. Morrus now picks up the handcuffs and uses them to punch Bubba, but an eye rake allows Rogers to land a leaping forearm to take Hugh down. Morrus with a pair of low blows himself before tossing Bubba to the floor, where they head up the ramp, where Hugh body slams Bubba on the stage area. The Laughing Man then walks up the steps, goes for a corkscrew moonsault, but Rogers moves in time before walking back down the ramp, stealing one of the women's bikes, and slowly riding it into Hugh, knock him down for the 10 count.
It is fun, too, because, he has to stop before the stairs, so he, it's not very graceful, but...
It's a good stunt fall.
Yeah. I mean, Hugh climbs up those stairs, and then it's like, oh, that's too high, and he goes down one, and he kind of does almost like you threw a cat across the room.
Yeah.
He just kind of does a weird, just kind of turns around and for splash. Yeah, it's very silly.
I mean, it was The ending was probably the best move of the match, I guess. I don't know.
The moonsault was nice.
Yeah, that's true.
No,
I forgot about that.
I mean, Hugh Morrus has always had a really good moonsault.
Yeah.
Bischoff then sends it to Babe Hunter Katz. Literally what he called him.
I know, the commentary just killing me.
And Jeff's mic doesn't work for a moment, but he's finally able to ask a blonde with big hair what she would do to be in one of Hogan's movies. She responds with, whatever it takes. So Eric calls her out for saying the same answer as the last one. Well, if you just gave them actual answers, they wouldn't say that.
Yeah, I know, and it's funny too because it's like these are supposed to be. They keep referencing like, oh, these hot biker ladies, and they just look. Like, I'm not trying to call these women ugly by any means, but they don't look like the girls from a motorcycle magazine. Like, and I think this number 4, I believe it was like the one that was like maybe the only one that would have made it to one of those. If it's weird.
Jeff calls this woman number 4 buoyant.
Because she's large chest.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Saying, to quote DiBiase, everyone has a price. So what's hers? And he claims to have $150 on him, so she says, you would walk away with a big bill.
Like he didn't have enough money. She's going to have to charge. She's going to have to send him an invoice.
Oh, yeah, what she needs is more than $150.
I mean, doesn't matter what you look like, you deserve more than $150.
Or it means that she's willing to only take $50.
True.
I took it that way.
Oh, okay.
Who knows?
When he said $150, I didn't think he meant $150.
Yeah, I just figured $1.50.
That's what I thought he meant.
Okay, yeah. It can be construed either way.
It could be.
Yeah.
Still not funny.
Nope.
Katzen sends it back to the action, but not before we see biker women dancing behind the screens, with Bischoff comparing it to James Bond.
Oh, yeah.
And these women can't dance.
Yeah.
That's the funny part.
They can't do their hair, they can't do their makeup, and they can't dance.
Yeah, I assume these are different ladies behind the screens, but...
To quote our nWo ring announcer,
Losers.
Eric then shows off the nWo website, with Ted claiming that he has his own website, with Bischoff just saying, what are you talking about?
He doesn't know what he's
I knew what he meant, because he's like, if you click on his name, he has his own page.
Page, yeah.
So that's what he meant, page, not website.
Yeah. But he's 42.
He doesn't know what the internet is.
It was still new.
Uh-huh. His wife sends emails when he needs
His dial-up.
No,
He thought his hearing aid was going out. He's 42. What do you expect?
I have my own website. It's like, you have your own page, and the website's a little different.
So we go to our third match. Jarrett versus Mr. Wallstreet. And Jarrett keeps going after Wallstreet with closed fists, so Patrick reprimands and pulls him away, allowing Michael to send Double J to the ropes, only for Wallstreet to be taken down by a shoulder block, a hip toss, and a crossbody for a slow 2 count, leaving Jarrett to continue arguing with the ref.
Yeah, and there's some cut shots of Deborah, because, she's the wife of Mongo, who's in the Four Horsemen, and Jeff has the Ric Flair stamp of approval. Also, you can't do that. Deborah looks 10 times better than any of these motorcycle girls. Like, what were they?
I think he has the stamp of approval by Deborah, too. But
Oh, yeah. Just maybe.
we're getting there.
In time.
Michael rolls up Double J for a near fall, but he telegraphs a back body drop, allowing Jarrett to face plant Wallstreet before choking him on the ropes, using the 5 count to his advantage. Double J then goes for a running straddle, but Patrick shoves Wallstreet out of the way, causing Jarrett to crotch himself, allowing Michael to clothesline Double J out to the floor. Wallstreet drops Jarrett across the railing before dumping him into the front row, while Deborah McMichael continues to look on concerned. Back in the ring, Michael locks on a sleeper, with Deborah starting to drag Mongo to ringside to help his fellow horseman, even though Steve doesn't like Double J. Jarrett somehow escapes and returns the favor, but Patrick calls it a chokehold, forcing him to release the sleeper hold. Double J then telegraphs a back body drop, with Wallstreet kicking him away and dropping an elbow, before putting on a rear chin lock with leverage. that looks a lot like a choke to take Jarrett down to the mat. Double J rallies to escape and hits an atomic drop and a snap suplex before coming off the second rope with a falling fist, only for Michael to avoid. And Jarrett starts working the leg before applying the figure four, only for Patrick, the referee, to drag Wallstreet to the ropes to cause a break.
Boo. And there's boos from the crowd. I mean, it feels like this show is set up to make the crowd hate the nWo, and if they're supposed to be heels, but I don't think but they also want to be cool, and they're selling T-shirts. It's just so many mixed signals.
I mean, the mission of the nWo was to put WCW out of business. So if they go to Iowa and they put on a horrible show, then maybe nobody will ever come back to watch another show again. I mean, I know if I was there, I'd probably have that same thought process.
Yeah.
So Double J starts arguing with the ref once again as Deborah continues to drag her husband to ringside. And the two men then trade ab stretches with leverage, with Michael finally being in control, which brings Mongo to the apron to clock Wallstreet with his briefcase.
He still has it?
Jarrett makes the cover, with McMichael threatening Patrick with the briefcase as well to make a correct count. For the pin
And the win. So there was that.
To quote the
Raven, nevermore.
God, I wish. Yeah, I wish that was the last match on the show. Yeah. To quote the
crowd, boring.
Well, I was trying to figure out a way to quote Jim Cornette. This is flatter than a plate full of piss. And every match has been flatter than a plate full of piss.
Eric sends it to Jeff Katz.
Oh, brother.
And he says we're halfway through the contest.
And I looked at the time when he said that, and we were at like 49 minutes.
I know. I want to die.
Of an almost 3-hour show.
I legitimately wrote down I want to die. In my
So you can
notes.
tell that young little Jeffrey, that was his name, right? Jeff? Yeah.
Katz.
Yeah, Mr. Katz. Oh, what's his face? Yeah, you can tell he started his entertainment career as a young kid because he cannot really tell time all that well.
Well, he then calls our next contestants the senior division. And Jeff asks a woman what part of her anatomy she would use to win. And she responds with her feet.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's not...
Yep. If all else fails, put your toes in his mouth, right? Right.
I hate that.
Katz then interviews someone's grandmother, who can't hear her well, asking her what she'd use to buff Bagwell's biceps.
Huh?
Say that 3 times fast. She says, after she finally kind of understands what he says, "How would I explain this?" So Jeff says her miracle ear must not be turned up, so she's disqualified. And spoiler alert,
She's not disqualified.
she's not disqualified.
Yeah. What the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You're supposed to give these women like some prompts, some ideas, at least a question that they're gonna get ahead of time.
I mean, I get it if it's a house show, but dude,
House
come
show.
on.
You know why house shows are great? It's because they're a series of wrestling matches.
They'll do like usually one angle or something like that.
Yeah.
Just to set up
I remember at house shows
Yeah.
back in, well, I mean, this was WWF, but back in the day, we'd have a brother love segment in the ring.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And the ones I went to, I don't remember anything like that. It was like 98 probably.
So we go to our 4th match. Scotty Riggs versus Buff Bagwell.
Alrighty.
American males explode.
Yeah. The second member of American Males, the underdog to Buff Bagwell. I don't remember what else he was saying, but he was making fun of Scotty Riggs as he went down to the ring.
So Riggs jumps the gun to attack Buff from behind with forearms, clotheslines, and back body drops that sends Bagwell out to the floor to regroup. Back in the ring, Buff with some right hands before they trade leapfrogs when Scotty lands a drop kick and a belly-to-belly suplex before also hip-tossing Bagwell over the ropes. And I was surprised that they didn't get a disqualification. I think Eric also mentioned it as well.
He did.
These are NWO rules.
But it was a WCW guy that did it, so like, why would you just
true.
disqualify him
Very true.
in the match quick?
Who really knows?
Riggs with a slingshot plancha, but Buff then reverses a whip to send Scotty into a guardrail and rams him into the apron. Bagwell with forearms on the apron, only for Riggs to retaliate by yanking the arm down across the ropes, before leaping off the top with a double axe handle for a 2 count. Scotty then goes for a suplex, but Buff counters it into a rubber band slam, before knocking him off the ropes into the railing. Back in the ring, Bagwell has control with stomps, turnbuckle smashes, and chokes across the ropes, before delivering a gutbuster and a powerbomb for a near fall.
And the crowd is, as soon as Bagwell gets in any offense, it's Bagwell sucks chance.
Oh, yeah.
Buff then telegraphs a back body drop, allowing Riggs to counter into a sunset flip, grabbing at the tights to get him over, exposing Bagwell's stuff, only for the ref to reprimand him for his actions.
It's a family show, okay?
Buff responds with a clothesline and a camel clutch that Scotty eventually counters into an electric chair drop, before countering a suplex into a small package for a 2 count, followed by an atomic drop, an enziguri, and a tornado DDT. Scotty continues with a pair of drop kicks before they start running the ropes, with both going for crossbodies that sees Bagwell land on top for a near fall. Now Buff goes for a neck breaker, but Riggs counters it into a backslide pin attempt for a 2 count, then nails a powerbomb for a near fall. Scotty sets Bagwell up on a top turnbuckle for a superplex, but they end up fighting, with Buff raking the eyes to send Riggs down to the mat, allowing Bagwell to deliver the Buff Blockbuster, which is a flying somersault neck breaker, for the pin and the win.
Loser.
Post-match, Bagwell walks up the ramp and the stairs, ends up getting some pyro, before dancing with some of the ladies on the top stage area.
You know what he used to do before his career in WCW, right? He was in the
He's a Chippendale boy.
entertainment business, according to Eric Bischoff on the show. Anyways.
I'm sure he was.
Yeah. Was so long, but I'll give some flowers to Scotty Riggs. Mm-hmm. It's funny too. It's like you're getting Bagwell sucks chance from guys in nWo shirts. Mm-hmm. They're like 3 people in the nWo, and there's like 40 people in the nWo now. You should have made this. You should have dragged out the people and made the people that join the nWo moderately important. Mm-hmm. Crazy. It's not the most terrible shit I've seen, this match, but it was fucking felt like it was 20 minutes long.
You let the Giant into the nWo for a few minutes, you gotta let anybody.
Bischoff sends it to Jeff Katz, and he makes a weed joke about all the smoke in the arena, before making fun of Vince for dressing in a powder blue suit and a hairpiece, using it to transition into a question for his next contestant, asking her what she would wear if she dressed up. But she can't hear him over the band.
The band is playing directly next to her.
Yep.
She's on the stage right next to the band, who's playing music. Why would you be able to hear him?
Why are they playing music while you're asking questions in the first place?
All good questions.
I mean, it's just not a...
More questions and answers from start to finish on this fucking show.
It's not well programmed. They did not have a meeting. They're just like, all right, we got all this stuff, right? Let's go.
Yeah, remember when we think about everything we do before our shows? Let's just do the opposite for this one.
Katz then asks her if she would wear sexy lingerie with Vincent, with her responding, sure, why not?
I want to die. She just shrugged. She's like, whatever. Okay. Give me my $50.
Jeff moves on to another contestant who seems to be much younger than any of the others so far, asking if she would help Scott Norton with his flashing problem or add to it, with her responding she'd add to it.
Oh, he likes her.
She looks 17.
She probably
that probably is his girlfriend.
Yeah. She is more traditionally attractive than everyone else, but it's creepy because she feels like that she just got her driver's license. Maybe she's 25, but she looks all of 17.
So we go to our 5th match. Diamond Dallas Page versus Scott Norton. So leading up to the show, DDP had appeared to change his ways and join the nWo. putting on the t-shirt and shaking hands, only to pull Scott Hall into a diamond cutter before escaping through the crowd. Page would then even save Eddie Guerrero from a beatdown to cement that he was fully WCW.
Yeah, and to further prove, there's only 3 real members of the nWo. DDP is over.
Yep.
DDP is over because he's good, and people like him, and he's been made to feel important slowly over time.
I'm going to say this now. I think there's technically 4. I'll even give Bischoff. I'll even say Bischoff. So 5 real members.
Okay, yeah, I mean, you're not wrong, but
because they're the only ones that really matter.
yeah,
All the rest of them are B team. Which
So we talking Hogan,
Hogan,
Scott,
Hall, Nash,
Kevin.
Syxx.
Okay, 6.
yeah.
Because I don't know if you also notice. I mean, even on our version, I don't know if it was on the VHS version. Hogan, Hall, and Nash and Syxx get the true NWO
True.
song.
Yeah.
While Norton,
Buff.
Masahiro, Chono, Buff,
I don't remember who else.
Big Bubba Rogers,
Yeah.
they had the B team music.
Yeah.
They already had different music for the underlings.
They're already telling you not to care about them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Scott uses his power advantage to start. So DDP takes a cigar break before the 2 men trade slaps until Page pokes the eyes to take Norton down.
The nerve of that guy smoking a cigar.
I mean, yeah, DDP's poking eyes and getting the chance.
DDP reverses a hip toss into a swinging neckbreaker and a pancake slam. Signals for the cutter, only for Scott to evade with a jawbreaker and a clothesline. And then we see the crowd start getting exciting about something. It's Sting! Since Shivani's not there, I have to do it.
Mm-hmm.
While Norton delivers a shoulder breaker,
Well, great looking shoulder breaker.
ramming him into the ring post, railing,
Posted.
and ring steps on the outside.
But he does that shoulder breaker from like the razor's edge position. It looks so good.
The punishment continues back inside with a catapult under the bottom rope when Page ducks a short arm clothesline and delivers one of his own, followed by a sunset flip, only for Scott to stay up and punch down before attempting a butt splash that DDP avoids.
I do love that Eric Bischoff talks about Scott Norton being a like doorman bouncer, and he was like about to say like at a bar, but he switches to club. It's like, I thought you were counterculture here, but I was like, as if that's a cool thing to do. It's like, oh yeah, before this guy wrestled, he was a bouncer. Does anybody think of bouncers as cool guys?
I mean, do you think the Road Warriors are cool guys?
Yeah, they were bouncers in real life, but they are cool. You didn't need to tell us they were bouncers ever, because they just have the charisma and they look awesome, and everybody sold for them, and they sold nothing, so they just shot straight to the top.
Page starts throwing everything at Norton to knock him down before flying off the top with a clothesline for a 2 count, before countering a power slam into a DDT.
Love to see it.
And all of a sudden, Buff Bagwell, Big Bubba Rogers, Mr. Wallstreet, and Vincent, a.k.a. the B-Team, arrive, giving DDP one last chance to join the group. And, like, literally Norton's off in the corner like, what the fuck are you guys doing out here? I'm beating this dude down. Like,
Yeah.
he's getting pissed off. And Paige is all like, hey, I have no issue with you guys. The NWO. We've punked each other, so we're even. It's all cool, guys. It's all cool. Buff hands him a shirt, and DDP puts it on. And Paige goes to shake hands with Norton, being like, hey,
Part of the team.
we're on the same team now.
And the crowd does not like DDP putting on an NWO shirt.
Oh, no.
Which is nice to hear.
But when he goes to shake hands, DDP pulls Norton into a diamond cutter before delivering right hands to everyone else and escaping out through the crowd.
Best moment of the pay-per-view so far. Easily.
And Nick Patrick looks at the camera and goes, well, he's not coming back, so 10 count.
Yeah, Scott Norton.
Scott Norton's the winner.
Yeah.
Loser.
Yeah, and yeah, I do love that DDP does the thing where he's like, So I got no problem with you guys. I'm a little thick-headed, and so are they. They're nWo gang members, essentially, which is a nice touch. But Eric Bischoff calls DDP dumber than a bag of dirt for turning down the nWo. He's the only guy that's been over on the show so far. And the crowd booed when he put on the shirt. You got to know when to hold him and know when to fold him. I can't believe he did that.
Speaking of, A Star is Born.
I just love the fact that, like, the A-Team has tried to get him to join the nWo. And he's like,
No,
I'm good. Hits Scott Hall with the diamond cutter.
That's game over.
And then this week, at this pay-per-view, the B-Team comes out and is like, he'll take it now.
Yeah.
Not just the B team, like the guys that have been in for like a whole 6.5 days probably.
And they came in while like Scott Norton was getting beaten down while DDP was on top. They didn't come in and like pull Scott Norton off of like a beaten down DDP and be like, hey man, let bygones be bygones, join the nWo. He was winning in that moment.
Yeah.
And that's why they came down, because if he was going to win, they wanted him to be on their side. So
there's some logic there, Shane. There is some logic there.
So we go to Jeff Katz, who's with another contestant, and he asks what her favorite maneuver is.
Oh, good grief.
What a maneuver. She said she'd show him, but children are watching. And we see none of this conversation as they're still showing the replay from the previous match.
Yeah.
But we finally see Jeff, and he's with someone else, asking her what she'd do to make Chono's stay in America more comfortable. And her response was, anything he wants, as long as I have some chopsticks.
Yeah, nonsensical answer. I mean, honestly, she said she'd do anything but children are watching is the best answer so far, and it wasn't even caught on camera.
Yeah.
Which Bischoff apologizes for, because instead of showing the women, he was like, we have to show the incriminating evidence. That was his words. I was just like, him doing the same thing to you and making you look like dumbasses for the second time?
Yeah.
Yeah, cool. We then go to our sixth match. The Steiner brothers of Rick and Scott Steiner versus the Outsiders of Scott Hall and Kevin Nash for the WCW World Tag Team Championships.
I mean, at least here's a pay-per-view caliber match.
So the last time we saw the Steiners was at Hog Wild 96, episode 215. And our lovable NWO announcer calls the Steiners Michigan Muds.
Michigan Muds.
And Scott kind of looks behind him, and he does not look very happy about it.
Yeah, not the kind of guy you want to piss off.
No.
And of course, the fans are chanting "Let's go Steiners" immediately, even though, you know, if there's any chance of NWO guys getting cheered, here's two of them.
You know what I'm okay with about this match? The fact that I didn't have to listen to that stupid Steiner Brothers song, because I've never really liked it. The whole Steinerized, here's the story of the brothers, Rick and Scott. It just, yeah, I've never liked it. I mean, I loved me the Man Called Sting and Natural. Oh yeah. But yeah, the Steiner Brothers music I didn't like. So the fact that they walked out with no music, it actually made them seem a little more intense.
Kind of like the Michigan Fight song better.
Yeah.
So for clarity's sake, since there's two Scotts in this match, Scott is Steiner, Hall is Hall.
Heard.
Hall and Scott started off by exchanging strikes and arm wrenches until Hall applies an ab stretch. But Scott answers with a pump handle slam and a belly-to-belly suplex that brings Nash in, only to be DDT'd by Rick to clear the ring of the Outsiders.
And I don't know if this is true or not, but I didn't notice the bell ringing for any of the matches before this one. Just something I noticed. It's like, the bell actually rang for this match, and then that's when I noticed that
this is a match that people might actually want to see.
Yeah, because when I take notes, I will it'll be the ring announcement, and sometimes something happens before then, so I will write 2 backslashes and then write bell and then 2 slashes so I know when the match actually starts. And this was like the first time I wrote it down, and that's why I noticed it. So it was just kind of an interesting amateur hour-ass nWo pay-per-view thing I noticed.
Rick and Hall now trade strikes when Steiner hits a body slam and elbow drops, leaps off the second rope, only for Hall to catch him and nail a fall-away slam for a 2 count. Scott returns, only for Hall to deliver a choke slam and bring Nash in, who keeps up the attack with elbows, knees, and clotheslines. But he then charges into a big boot, allowing Steiner to hit a belly-to-belly suplex for a near fall. And Rick takes over with a bear hug, but Nash immediately nails a forearm to escape, leading to them trading strikes until Steiner delivers a power slam for a 2 count.
Crowd pretty firmly behind the Steiners.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, you know, there's cheers for the outsiders, but the fucking Steiner brothers, they rule.
Rick then misses a clothesline, followed by Hall hitting him in the back from the apron, allowing Nash to nail a big boot that sends Steiner out of the ring. Hall with the clothesline on the floor before rolling Rick back in for a near fall with leverage by Nash. And the outsiders are working over Rick with stomps, chokes, clotheslines, and snake eyes.
Call back.
Before a body slam and an attempted elbow drop that Rick avoids. But he doesn't know where he is in the ring. So Hall is able to continue to work over Rick, tossing him out to the floor where Nash drops him across the edge of the apron. Rick is then dragged back in for both outsiders to deliver side slams that get 2 counts, followed by a running straddle by Nash. And Scott has had enough, and he runs around the ring to attack Hall on the outside, flipping him off before returning to the apron as Rick is nailed with a short arm clothesline. And Nash begins to taunt Scott, even spitting at him, which gives Rick time to recover and go low, making the crawl to the corner for the
Hot
tag.
Scott cleans house with clotheslines to everybody, tiger bomb to Hall, side suplex to Nash, before Rick rejoins the fray to knock Kevin out to the floor. Rick picks Hall up on his shoulders while Scott climbs to the top, only for Nash to make it back in to knock Rick down, causing Hall to crash into the ref on his way down, sending Patrick tumbling out to the floor.
I mean, the crowd, this is the match is the hottest the crowd's been all night by a fucking country mile. By an Iowa mile.
Yep.
Hall then nails the outsider's edge to Scott, but there's no ref.
Bum, bum, bum.
While Rick runs Nash into the ring post
Posted.
on the outside. Rick climbs the ropes to hit a diving bulldog, pulling Scott on top of Hall, when Randy Anderson would leap over the railing to make the count for the pin
And the win.
I mean, I'm excited. The crowd's excited. My blood started to pump a little bit in this match.
A little bit. Finally.
Bischoff would vow this wouldn't stand.
I'm going to the championship committee.
As DiBiase said, he wasn't a sanctioned ref. Eric even claims that fans are angry,
Totally.
even though they're cheering,
Yep.
before promising to fire Anderson on Monday.
Yeah, right.
And he did,
No.
while also stripping the titles from the Steiners and giving them back to the outsiders.
Yeah. Yay.
Yeah. I mean, this is.
Glad this match mattered.
I mean, it mattered to the people in the ring. It mattered to me as I was watching it. I think it was a pretty great match, and the only thing good on the show so far, and proof that WCW mainstays matter. DDP and the Steiner brothers, people have been watching for years, that are like, one's started as a heel and has recently become a babyface over time, and the Steiners, who are just babyfaces because they're badasses.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This show is missing a lot. I mean, when you've got
Is there like a packages before matches too?
Arn.
Because most of these matches are just thrown together anyway.
Yeah.
But
You've got Arn sitting in the audience. You've got Harlem Heat sitting in the audience. You've got the Faces of Fear sitting in the audience. You've got a Nasty Boy in the audience. Granted, some of those aren't mainstays whatsoever. But when you have a WCW, or at least a half WCW show without a Flair, and I know he's injured, without an Arn, without a Lex, without a Sting.
Yeah, crazy that Lex isn't on this show.
Yeah.
But like it's like Heat. I know that they.
Well, he didn't volunteer to be on the show.
It's true.
Well, Heat's been kind of overexposed, so probably time for.
But they were the first ones to be shown.
Yeah, for them to step away for a little bit. Nasty Boys. What else are we gonna do with them?
mean,
But yeah, I see
we're only down to one boy.
Yeah, and the Faces of Fear had a great match with the Outsiders recently.
Mm-hmm.
So and as much as I like the Faces of Fear, I mean, the Steiner brothers are the fucking Steiner brothers. Did you guys notice that there was a spot where Kevin Nash looks to have at least like cranked his wrist in the match? Wasn't sure if it actually resulted in a full injury or if he just tweaked something, but he was selling it. Like he wasn't selling it as a
I remember
work.
seeing it. Yes.
Yeah. I was just curious if something came of it, because then he went on to work the match in not in any significant way that made me
Concerned.
Concerned because I was watching for it, but I was like, I wonder what happened.
Mm-hmm.
But maybe just caught a stinger.
Sad fact. So I'm not exactly sure on the timeline, but I wouldn't be surprised if the reason why they fired Anderson was because he had testicular cancer, and this would be what would end up taking his life in the future. But he would end up taking a few months off.
Okay, when did he pass?
99.
Oh wow, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so
that's sad.
So I'm sure that's probably why they took him off the road so he could go and
so it's cool.
Get the help he needed.
Cool little hero angle. Does he ever come back?
Yeah, he comes back by March.
Okay,
so
not too bad.
So literally, we may never ever feel like
that he's gone.
He's gone.
Yeah, because he's back by the next major pay-per-view or whatever. Because
this is January. He's literally back in 2 months.
Yeah.
He's back on TV. So.
Oh, yeah. Sorry to hear that, Randy.
Yeah. R.I.P. Randerson.
You're, should have been Nick Patrick. I'm just kidding. I don't wish death on anybody. I'm only kidding. Just, based on this show, you can see why somebody might feel that way.
The views and opinions of Michael.
I'm kidding. I don't want anybody to die, especially that way. But Nick Patrick's definitely making a case for some ill thoughts towards him in this nWo themed show.
Given many, many reasons for people to lock him in a truck and put their feet in his mouth.
Well, that one girl liked it.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
My feet.
So we go to our 7th match. Eddie Guerrero versus Syxx for the WCW United States Heavyweight Championship in a ladder match.
I know, this raised my eyebrow. I think in one of the first couple of matches, the not so great commentary team brought it up, and I remember them saying Eddie Guerrero and Syxx, and I was like, sounds pretty good on paper. And then Ted talking about how, of course Razor Ramon has been teaching the tricks of the ladder match to Syxx.
Because Razor Ramon was the inventor of the ladder match, right?
Totally.
Yeah, he came up with it all on his own.
So the champ came out first. Foreshadowing. Even though the kid is the one with the belt. Because he stole it at Starrcade. Is
this only the second Sean Waltman match we've seen in WCW since he's joined? I think that it is, because at first I was like, is this the first one we've seen? Because he's just been palling around.
It was in the World War III.
Yeah, but I think he might have had one other singles match that we've watched, but this is kind of the first.
See, I'm trying to remember.
May have,
because I remember him out in the crowd with a camera on Nitro, but I'm trying to remember if I've actually seen him wrestle.
But my first thought was like, if this isn't the first one, then it's the second singles match we've seen with him. But it's kind of crazy that they haven't been using him with the other cruiserweight guys, considering that he's the only other nWo guy that.
Well, that was the part that confused me.
Came from the other company.
Was reading the notes here, seeing WCW United States Heavyweight Championship, and was like, wait, was this a United States match, or is this a light heavyweight? Because it's Syxx.
Didn't he have a match with Dean?
I think he did. It might have been a Nitro episode,
watched.
but I was like, I feel like there was only one other singles match,
or maybe it was Jericho.
I can't remember.
But that's what I was saying. Is I think there was like one other match, but this is kind of he hasn't been on these shows in any significant way, whereas Eddie Guerrero has been on these shows in a significant way for a while, and you'll see that as the crowd reacts to him. Just saying, it's like everybody knows he's the 1, 2, 3 kid. But that was a while ago.
Mm-hmm.
That angle happened, and he was getting over and all that.
Yeah,
just something I thought. Just something I thought about. We don't have to do all the homework
January
here.
now, and Razor left back in like April or May. I think.
Yeah, and I understand that Syxx is not Hall or Nash, and we look at him now, and it's like, oh yeah, that's X-Pac, the 1, 2, 3 kid, Syxx. So like he doesn't really become who he is until after this, but he still seems he's the only other guy from the WWF in I guess in a significant way. It's like, yeah, there's Ted and Vincent, but
no, this is his first singles match.
okay, all right,
Yeah, I remember seeing him in the crowd.
I mean, he was in the World War III match,
Yeah.
so it's not the first match he's had in WCW, but
first significant match.
Wait,
We can't call World War
No.
III significant.
match 4 of what show is this? Because I just typed in his name in my email so it could find anything. Halloween Havoc, him and Jericho.
Okay.
I was right. It
Okay.
was Jericho.
Yeah. I was like, I knew that,
swear
but
that's
that was in October. And it's January. Yeah, no, totally fine. But it was just something that I noticed. I was like, it's been so long that I was like, he really haven't seen him do anything.
Mm-mm.
So Patrick gets the belt hung up, and as it lifts in the air, Guerrero attacks, but Syxx fights back with chops and kicks. Eddie comes back with a head scissors takedown and a tilt-a-whirl backbreaker that sends the kid out to the floor to regroup. But Guerrero doesn't let up by flying off the top with a plancha onto Syxx.
And fans pretty behind Eddie Guerrero, but Sean Waltman looks to be working hard to look impressive. This is his second actual match because World War III, you can't tell what was happening, guys. So
Back in the ring, Eddie continues with a turnbuckle smash, but he then runs into a knee in a corner. So the kid climbs the turnbuckles, only for Guerrero to meet him there when Syxx would knock Eddie off before flying off himself with a wheel kick. The kid with more chops and kicks to knock Guerrero down to the corner to deliver a Bronco Buster and a double stomp before telegraphing a back body drop that Eddie flips over and nails a drop kick that sends Syxx out to the floor.
it's funny that Eric and Ted are shitting on Seagal and Van Damme in praise of Syxx as far as being a martial artist.
Guerrero tries to bring him back in the hard way, only for the kid to reverse to suplex Eddie out of the ring, followed by Syxx flying out of the ring with a somersault plancha, as someone yells in the background some inappropriate stuff that even Bischoff doesn't like.
No, he's like, whoa, 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 whoa.
What did he yell?
He yells that
what
Eddie
letter?
is a F word.
Oh, okay.
And very, very loud and clear on the audio. And Eric Bischoff he's like, whoa! He doesn't even make any kind of quip. He's just like, Jesus, that's not good.
Yeah. And that right there, sir, is why Iowa was the first to have gay marriage, because assholes like you.
Reboot yourself.
The kid goes up the ramp and grabs the ladder, and it looks like it's the only one that's anywhere around the ring,
As it should be.
and uses it to ram Guerrero into the apron before trying to bring it into the ring, only for Eddie to fight over control of it on the apron.
I had a bit of an issue with this.
Okay.
Instead of Syxx pushing the ladder into the ring, he's like pushing it up against the ropes. You slide the ladder into the ring if you're an intelligent human.
Well, Scott Hall is the technician that masters the ladder.
Yeah.
He's his little buddy, so he's not quite there yet.
Or
It makes sense with the spot that happens.
sets up the next spot.
It sets up the next spot, but it looks like
Makes him look dumb.
if you're not a wrestling fan and you're like watching this, like if your dad was nice enough to purchase this pay-per-view with you and he's like, all right, I guess I'll drink a few beers and watch this, he would immediately be calling out why this guy would do this. Like, what the fuck is he doing?
How pissed were the parents that actually paid for this show for their kids?
The kids, I mean, they were probably kind of pumped because the kids probably never asked for another pay-per-view.
True.
And Guerrero uses the ladder as a pendulum into Syxx's face before tossing it into the ring to use as a weapon. Eddie then sets the ladder in a corner, attempting to whip the kid into it, but it's reversed, sending Guerrero into the steel instead, followed by stomping on it while the ladder is atop Eddie.
Ouch.
Syxx also pops up Guerrero for him to land gut first across the ladder, before opening it up in a corner.
And all the while, we've got Eddie chants, guys.
As we should.
Mm-hmm.
Always.
I don't dislike Waltman as a wrestler, but he's no Eddie Guerrero.
No.
The kid then delivers a vertical suplex and begins to climb the ladder, only for Eddie to meet him at the top. So Syxx ducks down to hit a low blow through the rungs, causing Guerrero to fall down. The kid then closes the ladder up and climbs to the top turnbuckle to ride the ladder down onto his opponent. But Eddie's up and he drop kicks the steel into Syxx's face, followed by nailing a superplex.
Eddie.
Guerrero then opens up the ladder underneath the belt and he begins to climb, with the kid doing the same on the opposite side. They end up fighting at the top until Syxx leaps off with a drop kick to send them both crashing down to the mat.
Pretty wild spot.
They both climb again to fight once more atop the ladder, with Eddie again being knocked off. But he bounces right into the ropes and off them into the ladder that knocks the kid and the ladder over.
And that drop kick looks like Syxx may have taken the worst bump.
A little bit.
He lands like right on his wrist.
Our competitors again climb to fight atop the ladder, with both men grabbing at the belt, having a tug of war, when Guerrero uses the title to clock Syxx in the face, causing him to fall off, as well as the belt falling to the mat. But Eddie drops down and grabs it for the win.
Yeah.
Post-match, Eddie goes out into the crowd to celebrate with the WCW crew, even getting a hug from Arn Anderson.
Aww. Lucky bastard. So, I'm trying to remember, was he stripped of the belt as well, or?
No,
Okay.
nWo actually, like, hey, he won.
He won.
Fair and square.
Okay.
Yeah. There was one of the lamest things, proof that the guys in the nWo, Eric Bischoff, have no idea, like, they're not counterculture at all. This is just pure cosplay. Mm-hmm. And it is completely proved when Eric Bischoff says this incredibly cringy line, "Do this one for Alice in Chains, man." to about like Syxx. He's like, yeah, like trying to cheer him on, and he says, "Do this one for Alice in Chains." What does that have to do with anything at all? It just makes you sound completely out of touch. It's so baffling
Regular
that
culture would do it for themselves. Counterculture would do it for Alice in Chains.
No.
Do it for the Rooster Man.
It's lame to be like, I'm doing this one for the radio,
a world famous band,
for the radio rock band.
That's right.
The one whose most famous song is about a fucking like
Do it
war
for
vet.
Creed, man. Do it for Creed.
Yeah, it's like I like Alice in Chains.
Wide open.
Yeah. I do like Alice in Chains. I'm not shitting on Alice in Chains. I'm shitting on Eric Bischoff for not having any interest or finger on the pulse of a thing he's trying to like use to sell tickets.
Do it for Alice in Chains.
Man.
If I could, would you?
If I could. One of their best songs.
Eric then sends it to Jeff Katz, and he finally introduces all of our competitors by name.
And this is where it gets off track.
With graphics showing their careers, hobbies, measurements.
Measurements, yeah.
Actually, the young girl, her screen is actually the same as the girl before her.
Mary?
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They show Miss Mary twice.
The Chiron is the same or whatever.
And that's where I actually paid attention to the names, because I heard the name something, and then I looked at the screen and was like, that's not the name that they said.
Yeah.
And then they showed the next girl, and then the same card went up. I'm like, okay, cool.
Also,
Smart.
if you're gonna be like edgy, you can't say this line. When you see the ones you want to win, cheer your backsides off.
Yes.
Cheer your butt off is better than backsides. Why can't you say ass? It's a pay-per-view.
It's a pay-per-view, exactly.
You can say ass. I'm pretty sure you could say ass on on Grace Under Fire
Say
on NBC
anything
at this point.
other than backside.
Yeah.
Tush.
Yeah. I mean, I think the last thing that Eric Bischoff was aware of that was cool was ZZ Top about fucking 7 years ago.
Tush.
More than 7 years ago. Yeah.
Jeff says the final choice, though, belongs to Eric Bischoff, who takes the mic and says the nWo picks winners. And Eric continues that the competition is down to a tie. Miss Laurie and Miss Becky.
Like,
And this is neither the woman that was buoyant nor the young woman
no.
who we've all agreed
Were the two...
were probably the two most conventionally attractive ones.
Absolutely. I mean, there was a guy, like, as clear as you could hear someone yell a slur, you could hear a guy during one of the earlier matches yell out, "I love you, number 4," who was the blonde, buoyant woman.
And
but
yeah, old disqualified lady, she's still in the lineup.
Yep.
That
was Miss Mary.
Was that Miss Mary?
Yeah, I believe so.
I want to say some of these things I wrote down from these Chirons real quick.
Please do.
One of the quotes was...
I did not give a shit.
Okay, yeah,
Nope.
yeah. I only got a couple before I gave up. But one of the quotes was, "Men with bowling shirts turn me on. They own them or are they wearing them?" Like, men in bowling shirts would be the correct way to write that. One of the hobbies was treating hangovers. Cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool. Oh, men in leather and flannel get my motor running.
I did remember seeing that
Yeah.
one.
Yeesh. Man.
I remember Miss Becky was a bus driver.
Was she?
Driving.
I also love that he's like...
Passenger off.
Like, if nowadays her glasses would be considered what they call transition lenses.
Yeah.
Yeah. The another cringy thing in all of this is that Jeff Katz says that the choice belongs to Eric Bischoff, but he says the king, Eric Bischoff. Gross.
Yeah.
Kings aren't cool.
So Bischoff asks our final two, Miss Laurie and Miss Becky, a secret question, with them whispering their answer into his ear, causing Eric to react like it's something naughty. And Bischoff chooses Miss Becky as the winner and begins to make out with her as Pyro goes off before saying it's good to be king.
So
Becky.
Eric looks like a lesbian and is also attracted to them.
Yes.
That was rude.
Wasn't even Becky with the good hair. It was
Was
just Becky.
Miss Becky is given a sash and a tiara, which look like a hubcap almost,
Yeah.
like bent into a...
Yeah, a little NWO.
Before she does a victory lap and sits on her throne, which was a giant toilet.
Yes, this is all in service of it being like this lady's a little chubby, so this is all in favor of this whole thing. It's been running the whole show is a fat joke and not even a funny fat joke. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying like it's not nice to make fun of people's weight, but we can agree that we've laughed at a fat joke before. This one is completely poorly executed and not funny.
Remember what I said at the very beginning about anytime somebody from the Midwest, Nebraska, Iowa, wherever ends up on TV, they're made to look a fool just so that the people running the show can make themselves look better?
If anything, I think this makes Eric look worse than anybody else.
Yo mama's so fat she won the Miss NWO competition.
Oh!
That's pretty good.
WCW hates women.
Yeah, we could have, honestly, man, I would have rather just hung out and tried to recall fat jokes. Your mama's so fat jokes. But hey, this is what we're here to do.
Save that for a different podcast.
Yeah. I mean, I don't really want to. But
Eric returns to commentary to discuss the main event with DiBiase, saying Hollywood will right the wrongs of tonight.
Totally.
So we go to our 8th match, The Giant versus Hollywood Hogan, with Vincent and members of the Dallas Cowboys, Nate Newton, George Teague, and Ray Donaldson.
And I think it was in an earlier match, they talked about how it's going to be Giant and Hulk Hogan, because the show has like no packages. It just starts and matches happen. Anytime something gets teased, it's just on the mic poorly by Ted or Eric. So when I found out it was Giant versus Hogan, I was like, we're doing this again?
Again, already.
He's getting his title shot that he won at World War III.
I know. But
Oh, that's
nobody,
right. I forgot
nobody
he won that.
remembered. Nobody remembers World War III match.
I mean,
You do.
I had to watch it.
I did too.
I remember these things.
I remember the bad camera angles more than the winner.
I mean, it took Hogan and Savage like a year and a half before they had their match after World War III. But, or maybe it was just almost a year. I don't
It was
remember.
like 9 months.
Yeah,
Either
long
way,
enough, yeah.
yeesh.
So as Hollywood makes his way out, Bischoff says all the promoters Hogan worked for owe him a gret of datitude.
Yeah.
Gret attitude is very funny. First funny thing that's been said on the show.
T-shirt idea, guys.
Gret of attitude.
Before also saying George Clooney wanted to be there, but the NWO didn't want that buff Bagwell wannabe.
Hilarious.
Okay.
I mean, this is ER period, I imagine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Before he becomes one of the most beloved movie stars in the last 30 years.
We're should be nearing From Dusk Till Dawn, I believe, if we haven't already.
I mean, One Fine Day had just come out.
Yeah.
The
We're
last
close.
Yeah, maybe it came out.
They really did have that same haircut, didn't they? Now that I'm picturing Buff from the show and Clooney at that time, yeah. That classic Caesar.
Well, Michael Clayton wore it better.
True.
So the match gets going with Hollywood getting in a kick and a rake of the eyes, only to be no-sold, with the Giant laying it in with chops to send Hogan bailing out to the floor to regroup. But the big man gives chase, so Hollywood lures him into a trap, attacking the Giant as he returns to the ring. Hogan with right hands and chops before a reversed whip sends Hollywood to the ropes, with both men going for clotheslines. That gets us a double KO. They make it back to their feet with the Giant in control with turnbuckle smashes until he tosses Hollywood out to the floor. Following out, only for Hogan to rake the eyes and attempt to slam his head into the guardrail. But even with Vincent's help, it is reversed with the big man tossing them into the steel.
Yeah. This match is happening.
Yep.
Back in the ring, Hollywood tries some shoulder blocks that again are no-sold, before Hogan tries for an inside cradle on one of his attempts, only for the Giant to lift Hogan up for a body slam. The big man with an elbow drop and forearms across the back that sends Hollywood retreating to the floor once more. But the Giant gives chase again.
I do love that the crowd is behind Paul White. Because, like, how could you possibly cheer on the NWO after they've just given you nothing but poor wrestling angles and comedy?
One after the other.
All night.
And as the big man closes in, Hogan turns and throws powder into his eyes and starts to control the match with right hands, back rakes, and choking with wrist tape. Hollywood goes to roll the Giant in, but he fights back to slam Hogan's head into the apron, followed by a backbreaker inside the ring. The Giant heads up top, coming off with an elbow drop, only for Hollywood to move before making a cover for a 2 count.
And there's a point where Eric says that the crowd is chanting Hollywood, which isn't true.
No.
You can hear the crowd.
Giant, or something like that.
Yeah, they're not chanting Hollywood. That's not even they would chant like Hogan, not Hollywood.
Hogan starts to wear down the big man with a chin lock and rabbit punches before hitting the big boot. But the Giant just absorbs it.
That's what I meant to go to when he absorbed it.
Hollywood then body slams the big man and nails the leg drop, only for the Giant to raise to his feet while Hogan is posing.
That never happens!
The Giant delivers a chokeslam, makes the cover for the pin, and no! Patrick just keeps saying Hollywood's kicking out when he literally is not moving at all.
Yep. So, I mean, this works better on television than in the ring. Mm-hmm. So, those 4,000 or 5,000 people.
The Giant's had enough of these shenanigans, and he just chokeslams the ref, which brings out the NWO, or at least the B team.
Buff and the boys.
There you go.
The big man choke slams all of them, while Bischoff grabs a guitar from the band to give to Hogan, who proceeds to break it over the head of the Giant.
Gimmick infringement.
And the official decision of this match is a no contest. But then the real nWo shows up to continue the punishment with a wooden chair across the big man's back, while the crowd chants for Sting. The nWo then spray paints the Giant's back before posing over his prone body, as Hollywood asks, who's next?
First he says, "Full life, sucker."
Promising to give the fans more fallen heroes. And Hogan says he'd do anything for Eric Bischoff before playing air guitar on the title belt as we go to credits. So I ask you, gentlemen, what are your overall thoughts of nWo Sold Out 1997?
It's boo-boo, and there's two matches that I think are good and or fine, but they're not, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Steiner's versus the Outsiders is not good enough to click on this and even drag the cursor to where the match starts.
Nope.
And even Eddie and Syxx, it's pretty good and it's pretty fun, and the right guys won those two matches. The only two matches that I would even call wrestling matches. But it's still just not worth, the juice ain't worth the squeeze. Don't give it the thing a click.
Yeah, we have a short list, but this show makes me want to start a new list because the short list is for best matches that we've seen of the year, and this
Shit
just
list?
makes me, it makes me want to have a shit list because, unfortunately, I guess if we had that, we'd have to go back and review these matches, and I don't ever, not even in a replay, just fast track through something, just a quick shot on the screen. I don't want to see anything on this fucking show again.
I think the best thing about the show is that it shows you exactly
Ends.
that it shows you exactly what not to do.
Save something for best moments.
Like, it's like, look at how much of this works, which is nothing. The only thing that really works is that the mainstay long-term WCW guys that got themselves over are over. And that's like the only positive thing that happens, is that like hard work and good work pays off in the eyes of the fans.
But unfortunately, the mainstays of WCW on this show consist of maybe one match, the Steiners.
Yeah, Steiner's. Eddie's kind of a
Eddie's
new one,
not a
but
mainstay.
he's not a mainstay, but he's new and he's got the fans over pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. And then, of course, DDP, who's been having great opening show matches consistently for like the last at least 2 years on pay-per-views. Like,
This is a bad show.
it's awful.
Yeah.
Awful.
The entire first half should just be on the WCW Saturday night at best.
Yeah, it shouldn't have made it to.
It's not even Nitro worthy.
It should be a VHS copy of WCW Saturday Night. But yeah, horrible.
I mean, the whole thing should have been
The
rewritten.
second half of the show is better than Bunkhouse Stampede, but not by much. And to your point, the problem actually wasn't any of the WCW guys.
No.
Actually, the WCW guys are some of the either most over or up and comers obviously we're looking back at it 27 years later.
Yes.
So hindsight is 2020. We know where these guys are going. But the B team, it goes back to this that should be on WCW. The B team
Is 75% of the show.
is 75% of the show, yeah.
And they hadn't had enough time to even establish themselves as a part of the NWO because the last show we watched was in December, and the majority of them were still WCW.
We mentioned that they had joined the NWO at that point.
Had they already? Okay.
But they didn't show up on Starrcade to even establish that they were important enough.
Okay.
Because when the NWO comes out, they don't come out with them.
I imagine that on those stupid internet ranking list things, clickbait things, that this show has got to be among the top 10 or whatever.
I
Worst
want to
WCW
say I want to
shows.
say it's like a 2 or a 3 on Cage Match as a show.
Like,
But-
the thing I looked up, just because I was trying to find different quotes that the announcer guy, the loser guy, said.
Oh, the loser guy, yeah.
The headlines or taglines that I'm seeing on all of these, we've got, what was WCW thinking when they put on nWo Sold Out 1997?
They don't know. They thought that they were going to be cool, and they came off.
Mike
That's
reviews
cool.
shows considered to be stinkers. nWo Sold Out 1997. Eric Bischoff on why the nWo Sold Out struggled as a pay-per-view.
Because it was
yeah,
poorly put together.
Yeah, it didn't need to be a show.
And you were trying to be cool and failed every second of the time. Trying to be cool is not cool. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, it's a 3.33 on Cage Match.
Ooh.
Out of 10. That's how cage match works, right?
Yeah. Someone really liked it in 2013 and gave it a 6. And that's why it's that high.
I wish
Oh,
they
wow.
would show that person's name so everybody could contact them and have them watch it again.
Dox him.
Well, on Cage Match, you now
Dox
have
him.
to... You do have to...
Oh, there's no anonymous?
There's no anonymous because they were having too many people going out there and, like,
Messing with stuff.
purposely downgrading
Shows.
Great shows.
certain shows just because it was tribalism.
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Too much of it. Not here, guys. We're
We watch
anti-NWO.
everything,
And whew,
and we'll give everything its equal value.
I was embarrassed to be somebody who considers themselves a fan of professional wrestling. While watching this show, I was contemplating my life and the amount of time I've put into watching wrestling, and that is a really negative thing to
I
say.
was thankful I didn't get a text going,
I quit.
"This may be the last show I ever watch."
I mean, while I was getting through it, I seriously felt that way. It's like, what am I even doing? That's how bad it was that I felt bad for liking something. Don't make me feel bad for liking something that can be great.
Good. Where's the smart marks at? All right. Fuck you.
I think it's time we smark it up. So, what are some of the best moments of this show?
I will combine this with surprising that Scotty Riggs got a lot of offense off and it looked nice, and I never even thought about Scotty Riggs once in my life, and we've watched him wrestle.
You may never think of him again.
Exactly, but that was one of the things where I was like, oh, Scotty Riggs is really beating down Buff Bagwell and doing it very crisp and cleanly. He's doing his job well here. Not that it amounts to much, but that was kind of surprising that somebody was actually doing something. It took a while for anybody to do anything on this show, and Scotty Riggs was actually like working hard.
This may be the only time that Buff Bagwell ever gets any flowers.
Mm-hmm.
But the Buff Blockbuster is a really cool finisher.
Yes.
No, it looks
I
awesome.
mean,
yeah.
obviously it's much cooler once Athena, or whatever her name back in WWE was.
It is that same
Ember
move.
Ember Moon, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
It's,
Yeah,
it's the same move.
Yeah, she's great at it.
Yeah,
And,
It's a great finisher.
It looks a whole lot better when she does it,
Oh
actually.
yeah, totally. Hugh Morrus.
She's like 4'8".
Yeah, his
no
moonsault.
laughing matter is
Yeah,
great.
his moonsault
Syxx's drop kick on the ladder,
takes balls.
like that. Yeah, like to even go. I'm going to jump because Nick Patrick is not holding the ladder,
No.
so literally he has to hope to God that he is able to
Connect.
jump straight up to be able to then kick out
Yeah.
into a drop kick.
And he takes the worst bump for it, but it is an impressive bump. Is that the best match on the show?
Yes.
Yeah. I think, it's that and then the tag match are 1 and 2.
The tag match takes a step down just because of,
Yeah.
they're not going to take the belts off of the outsiders.
No, but they gave the Steiners the win in the night, and the crowd is into it, and the Hall and Nash have the respect to actually work with the Steiners, where guys don't always have that. They're just they had the respect to work a great match with the Faces of Fear. There's guys that they'll work with.
That's you can say what you want to say about Scott Hall and Kevin Nash. At this point in time, they're
doing the work.
They're not completely full of, not completely full of themselves. They're full of themselves.
But
they're not completely full of themselves.
It's not
like, they're still putting their working boots on and going out there and trying to
put on a good match.
Put on as best of a match as what you can. Because, we all know Kevin Nash is not the greatest thing ever.
No.
But he's out there working hard.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I think Scott Hall doesn't ever have his drug problem. Scott Hall goes down as possibly one of the best wrestlers to
definitely
ever do it. But he taints his legacy very, very hard.
Yes.
Yeah, to the detriment of his work.
Yeah.
There's some guys that had those problems and were still able to work.
His work, his looks, everything.
I know, what a handsome boy. Mm-hmm. Don't do drugs, kids.
I'm trying to think of any other best moments, and that's...
few and far between.
Yeah. I'd say it ended, but it ended with an ending the way it ended, and I would rather not have even watched any of it.
I wanted to say with this that I do think that I would have been completely heartbroken if the NWO was over inside the arena, the whole show, and I would have lost all hope for humanity. But for the idea that it's not all the NWO is not over on this show. Like, none of them get fucking cheered in any real or significant way.
They're the only ones that really get cheers at all.
Yeah, and the Steiners are still getting, like, bigger pops. Yeah. And, like, so that was nice to know that, like, not only did this not work as a pay-per-view, it didn't work in the arena full of NWO shirts for the people that paid for an NWO shirt. They're still, you can see them on screen chanting for faces and booing the NWO members. So like I said, it's just a cool t-shirt, and this pay-per-view absolutely proves that it's just a pretty cool t-shirt.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I thought of one.
It's a t-shirt company?
Scott Steiner's
they really are.
Reaction to the whole Michigan Mutts.
Oh, yeah.
There we go. I found one.
That's good. Yeah. You're just a fucking t-shirt. That was a good reference, Matt.
Most disappointing?
Start to finish.
The idea that...
how can you be, when it's just bad, I don't know if you can really be disappointed.
I think that...
Because, literally you go, the first match pops up, it's Masahiro, Chono, and Chris Jericho, and you're kind of like...
Okay, cool.
Okay. I don't know exactly how this does,
but it's not good.
Because Chono probably shows up to the building and goes, "I'm working with who?"
Yeah.
Yeah. He was just in the Tokyo Dome.
Jericho literally worked Japan.
Yeah.
He's like,
"You're making me wrestle Super Liger?"
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah. They haven't Chono had no business dealing with Chris Jericho in Japan.
Yeah. And so to put him in the ring with him here is
they don't have any chemistry.
No, there was no chemistry.
The match isn't good. And they're two fucking legends, but there's no reason for Chono to put on his working boots in fucking Iowa.
Yep.
The most disappointing thing to me is that they thought that this would work and would come off as cool when the ideas are about as lame as possible. And it just shows, like I said, Eric Bischoff, his idea of what's cool is what's cool to a 12-year-old boy that got put into alternative school for being a bully or setting trash cans on fire. It's not cool. None of this comes off as that or interesting or counterculture. It comes off as just shitty lame bully stuff. It's like a kid that came out of a bad home, just being a pain in the ass, which isn't cool. It's a bummer that happened to that kid and he's acting out, but it's not cool.
Mine is tied probably between the unbelievably beautiful selection of women that we had to
I love you,
go for Miss NWO and Ted DiBiase on commentary, just because truly Million Dollar Man was always one of my favorite characters, personalities, wrestlers, all of it. And yeah, he's got the laugh still, but Ted DiBiase in WCW is just boring as shit.
I mean, this is remember like early Raws where they had that son of a bitch from like the Shock Jock radio?
Mm-hmm.
This is worse than that. This commentary is worse than that.
Oh, yeah.
Because at least that guy's trying jokes, and it comes off as lame and try hard.
Barnett?
Yeah.
Ah.
Yep, and this might be worse commentary than the one with the voiceover fake commentary from the early ECW show. This is like, tournament show we watched. Yeah. And that was bad, but at least it was like so bad that it's kind of funny. Whereas this was just kind of, this is embarrassing for Eric Bischoff and Ted DiBiase, one of which is a legend, and the other one is a 12-year-old child.
I would have just rather them brought in like a Japanese announce team or something like that, so I would have no idea what they were saying, and I probably would have enjoyed it just that much more.
Maybe. Loser.
How about best performer of the night? I'm going to give it to Syxx, actually.
To Syxx?
Why not?
Not number 4?
No.
Miss Becky was pretty close. But...
I'm going to give it to the nWo toilet. Just kidding.
And I'll just give it to the voiceover guy, the loser.
Oh, I hated that. I hated that.
Actually, you know what? I'm going to give it to Nick Patrick.
There you go.
He worked every match on this show.
Very true. That's true. That is true. I don't know that he did a great job, but he did a job.
He was
he
there.
Did it all
he
night.
did the job.
Yeah.
He had to think of different excuses as to why he couldn't count that pin, so thinking on his feet while he's laying on his ass.
And how about most surprising?
Oh,
I really didn't think that the Steiners would win the belt. It's obvious that they were going to take him off of him because it was Randy Anderson and not Nick Patrick, but they gave him the win, and it was nice that Eddie won, so like...
He's finally got his belt. He finally gets to celebrate with it.
Yeah, for sure. So like those two things, pretty cool. And they're also two best matches on the show, so it's nice that the two things that could potentially be worth watching have solid, I don't know about solid, but positive outcomes.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
That's surprising.
Let's just get out of here.
That I made it through the whole thing in one sitting.
Me too. I couldn't.
Jeff Katz.
I mean, his backstory I'm surprised by, but I didn't enjoy him on the show.
I didn't on the show,
that.
No. But like knowing that literally he comes into, he's probably 18, 19 years old, and he's doing this, and then what he goes on to do, being a film producer.
10 years later, he's responsible for Freddy versus Jason.
Backstory.
I'm okay with that.
Was probably the most surprising and interesting thing that happened on the show. It was like, the chubby guy asking the dumb questions went on to be very successful. Is
probably the most successful person that is on this show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Other than maybe Hogan.
Yeah. I mean, and you know that the wrestling promotion he started was out of love. Because he was one of the things
he loves wrestling.
He made his money producing films and then put on wrestling, which was probably a net loss by choice.
Yeah, it never got shown anywhere, but you can find it on YouTube.
Yeah, but it's like, that was just a passion project. Not obviously didn't think he was going to start WCW 2 or even something like a TNA or ROH. For the love of the game.
And now for a look back even further into the history of wrestling.
The dusty finish.
The Great Muta had become the NWA World's Heavyweight Champion in the Tokyo Dome, but now headed to Asheville, North Carolina for Super Brawl 3 on February 21st, 1993. He would face a former Horseman. Barry Windham, born 1960, is a second-generation wrestler, trained by his father Blackjack Mulligan and Harley Race. He would debut in San Angelo, Texas against J.J. Dillon in 1979. Much of his early career was in championship wrestling from Florida, even winning the NWA Florida United States Tag Team Championship 3 times with his brother-in-law, Mike Rotunda. The tag team would move to the World Wrestling Federation in late 1984, debuting as the U.S. Express, quickly making an impact and becoming the WWF Tag Team Champions multiple times, but would lose them at the first ever WrestleMania. Wyndham would shift to Jim Crockett Promotions in the fall of 1986, having memorable matches with the Nature Boy Ric Flair, including 3 5-star matches, according to Dave Meltzer. Barry would eventually shift back to the tag team division, this time with Ron Garvin, capturing the NWA United States Tag Team Championship. But after losing those belts, Wyndham would then become the first NWA Western States Heritage Champion, defending it against the likes of Rick Steiner, Big Bubba Rogers, until losing to Larry Zbyszko at Bunkhouse Stampede. Barry would then join forces with Lex Luger, who had just been kicked out of the Four Horsemen, to take on the legendary tag team of Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. But Wyndham would betray Luger and be invited to join the Horsemen. With his new backing, Wyndham would win the NWA United States Heavyweight Championship, defending against Brad Armstrong, Dusty Rhodes, Sting, and Bam Bam Bigelow over the course of his 9-month reign. Barry would end up dropping the belt to his rival, Lex Luger, at Chi-Town Rumble in 1989, followed by his contract with JCP expiring, so Wyndham would head back to the WWF for a short run. Barry would return to the Four Horsemen by the summer of 1990, spending his time teaming with Arn Anderson and Sid Vicious. But after Ric Flair was fired from WCW, the World Heavyweight Championship would be vacated, so Wyndham would meet his rival Lex Luger for it at the Great American Bash in 1991, only to be unsuccessful. The Horsemen would also fall apart at this point, leading Barry to feud with the new Dangerous Alliance over the WCW World Tag Team and WCW World Television Championships into 1992, before also feuding with the Miracle Violence Connection over the unified WCW NWA tag belts. Wyndham would then make his challenge for the NWA World's Heavyweight Championship and win it for the first time. After the match, returning Ric Flair would try to place the belt around Barry's waist, only for him to realize who it was and stomp away. Wyndham would then become a lone wolf, feuding with his former Horseman partners, leading to a match with the dirtiest player in the game. Next week, Crossing the Line again?
It seems like such a long-winded title. It sounds like a lyric to the chorus of a 80s rock song. Maybe like a 38 special.
So I was thinking Carly Simon.
I think they're trying to pull the idea from the night the line was crossed.
Yeah, for sure they are.
From a few years ago.
Because you can't have the night the line was crossed. 1990.
Again.
Yeah, it's like... Yeah.
I'm intrigued to find out what line was again crossed.
Same here, buddy.
So I'm trying to remember...
Maybe we'll find out
the
next
night
week.
the line was crossed, or whatever it was.
That was the 60-minute Shane Douglas, Terry Funk, and Sandman match. Does that sound right?
I'm trying to remember. Is that where it started with 2 of them, and then one of them joined halfway, or 10 minutes in, or okay? Because they've got their titles are weird. Crossing the Line and When Worlds Collide, or something like that doesn't really have any worlds
the ECW
colliding.
shows everybody remembers the name of are like November to Remember and
Sabu, not Sandman.
Okay.
That's right.
And Heat Wave. Keep it short and sweet.
Barely Legal.
Oh yeah.
Music from this week's show is Cop Killer A by Rolf Ragond.
Cop
And
Killer? What's Ice-T's band called? Cop Killer. They had a song that got pulled from the shelves.
I don't remember.
Body Count.
Yes.
The Body
I
Count song.
think of it.
Yeah. I should have known it as well. Took a second.
And Hogan wasn't victorious, but the NWO stood tall at the end, so we're going to play Rock House by FCD Music.
I mean, heard it enough.
If you like this episode or any of our other ones, please go out there, rate and review us on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, or wherever you find your podcasts at.
If you liked Sold Out, draft the email and don't hit send.
and walk into the restroom, look at yourself in the mirror, put your hand up just a few inches away from your face, and then just go nuts. Slap it back and forth, back and forth, back and forth.
If you have any questions, comments, concerns, or any of those things that they just mentioned, you can email us at wrestlinghistoryx@gmail.com or find us on X at WrestlingHistoX. That's Wrestling HISTO.
X.
Where X marks the spot.
We'll talk to you next week.
Loser. Loser. Loser.
And
Loser. Loser.